Welcome to The Record Show, your virtual spin around the vinyl industry. Brought to you by Radio Wasteland Records. Yes, Midland has a record store. Here's your host, Jim Gleason.
Greetings from the Wasteland and welcome to another edition of The Record Show. Going to have to be an abbreviated one again today, sorry about that, but we are in the throes of preparation for Record Store Day 2022. In fact, Ken can't be here with us again today because, well, quite frankly, he's in the midst of getting all of these titles shipped out to record stores around the country. We'll do what we can to cover the new releases, though, coming up in just a couple of moments. But first, with regards to Record Store Day and the big day coming up on April 23rd, there have been some changes, as kind of sort of expected with all sorts of pressing and shipping delays happening. Record Store Day, as we had mentioned earlier, kind of reserved a date in June to handle as a reserve date drop should some of these titles for April not make it to the stores in time. Well, that appears to be the case for numerous titles, and kind of glad now that they set that date aside as kind of a fail-safe or a backup on this. As of April 5th, just the other day here, we were notified that there are several titles being bumped from the April Record Store Day event to June 18th, which is they're calling their Record Store Day drop. No drops like before with drop 1, drop 2, drop 3, but just kind of a backup date in June as we had talked about. Now, the full list of these titles are at recordstoreday.com. Just look for that particular title that maybe it's something you were looking for and hoping for in April, and it will be updated on the RSD website as for its official release date, especially after all of these changes. But some of the biggies that are showing up here now for us to take note of include some titles along the lines of Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers being pushed back, Billy Bragg's title, the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, Ray Charles, The Genius Loves Company, Collective Soul, Fats Domino, the Frankie Goes to Hollywood also being pushed back until June, as is the Jerry Garcia Band release, Billy Gibbons, Glass Animals, Hailstorm, The Heartbreakers, Elton John's Complete Tom Bell Sessions, Nicki Minaj, and The Rationals' self-titled release for Record Store Day, and this one's a little bit of a bummer. We'll get it eventually, but the Rationals are, of course, a Michigan band hailing from the late 60s and 70s, kind of that good garage Michigan rock, acid rock sound. So we'll look forward to that one in June. Also, Sam Smith, Ringo Starr, both of the vinyl versions of that release are being pushed back till June, as are numerous various artists' albums, including the 50 Years of TV's Greatest Hits, the Go Ahead Punk Make My Day, and another bummer, the Royal Tenenbaums soundtrack, being pushed back until June, as is the Voivod Nothing Face, Barry White's The Who's, It's Hard 40th Anniversary, John Williams' Cowboys soundtrack, and World Party. And one other note on this list of bumps is that the Vitamin String Quartet's performing Coldplay has been moved to Black Friday. Now again, that is the list of delays that we were given as of April 5th. There could, of course, also be more as the event draws closer and the worldwide problem of pressing and shipping delays continues to, be a plague for the record industry. We'll just have to stay tuned and see how things go, and we'll do what we can on April 23rd with the releases that are headed our way. Well, as we mentioned a few moments ago, Ken is tied up this week shipping the RSD titles that are going to make it in time out to an independent record store near you. So we'll handle this week's new releases on our own. We can manage somehow. I think we'll get around on that. There are some cool ones this week, though, as well. Much anticipated is the release of Jack White's Fear of the Dawn. There are a couple of different versions of this, a regular black vinyl version and a astronomical blue indie exclusive. So Fear of the Dawn, if you've not heard of this yet, is the fourth studio album from Jack White as a solo artist, again, founding member of the White Stripes, the Raconteurs, and Dead Weather, and you know him well from Third Man Records, putting out that plea a few weeks back saying, please, labels, open some more pressing plants so we can get out of this mess that we're in. No fear of Fear of the Dawn being delayed, though, as Jack White handled this himself. The album was recorded at Third Man Studios throughout 2021, mastered by Third Man Mastering, and pressed to vinyl at Third Man pressing plants in both Detroit and Nashville. And of course, it's being released by Third Man Records. So check that out. Should be a good one coming from Jack White. Also, highly anticipated this week is the vinyl issue of Tool's Fear Inoculum. You may recall a couple of years back, they put out this really wild CD package that included a video that auto-played inside of the CD packaging when you open it up. Well, Tool is not disappointing when it comes to the vinyl version of this release. Long-awaited and limited edition, this is the vinyl package of Tool's Grammy-winning and critically acclaimed album, Fear Inoculum. This package features 5 180-gram black vinyl discs with the album tracks featured on side A of each of the discs and a unique etching featured on each of the side Bs. Again, a little bit of a pain to play. You're playing one side of each of them, but again, it's Tool, so that's going to be a kind of a cool and interesting packaging. So the discs, by the way, are packaged in a hard shell box with new album art, a bound casebook holding everything together, along with some new imagery that has not previously been seen by Tool fans. So check that out. It's a little pricey because it is a 5-disc set, listing at $179, so check the availability at an independent record store near you. Also new stuff coming this week from Joe Satriani, a bunch of music recorded during the closures, and so he had some time to really concentrate on this. And according to our description and promotional materials, thanks to the pandemic, removing all sorts of time constraints, this new album from Satriani, titled The Elephants of Mars, truly represents the album that Satriani himself hoped he could deliver with he and his band. And ultimately, Elephants of Mars stands as one of the most intriguing and interesting albums of Satriani's career. Looks like this one is coming on an indie-exclusive limited edition orange vinyl as well as a black vinyl version. Speaking of interesting, here we have an album called Greatest Hits Volume 1 by a group called Area 21. Completely and totally unfamiliar with this band, but Discogs describes them as a dance pop, deep house, hip hop, trap, pop rap, UK garage. So my guess is it's somewhat electronic in nature. But Area 21, Greatest Hits Volume 1, is coming out on purple vinyl from Hollywood Records. And our description, by the way, says Area 21 are 2 alien travelers tripping through the cosmos, spreading a message of unity and good vibes. After they hit a satellite, they came crashing to Earth, and that's where the real journey begins. So we can join their mission and let yourself be immersed in the world of Area 21. Could be some interesting stuff. Also, a release coming this week from Wet Leg on both black vinyl and clear vinyl. Limited edition, so some cool indie stuff from Wet Leg. And a reissue from Faster Pussycat. This one is Between the Valley of the Ultra Pussy, coming on pink vinyl. This features remixes of the best tracks from their breakthrough 1987 self-titled debut and the 1989 gold-setting Wake Me When It's Over release, including House of Pain, Slip of the Tongue, and Where There's a Whip. So this is kind of a compilation, we'll call it the greatest hits, if you will, but of 2 of Faster Pussycat's previous albums. And finally this week, we've got a trio of Bob Dylan reissues headed to indie record stores near you, all coming from Sony Legacy. We get the double LP pressing of Blonde on Blonde. What? You don't own Blonde on Blonde yet? Oh, it'll be okay. All right. So be looking for Blonde on Blonde, as well as Highway 61 Revisited. And finally, the third Dylan release is Bringing It All Back Home. So a very cool trio of reissues from Dylan to get you started. A lot of old Dylan records, by the way, I can attest, are beat up. They were used and well loved, so this is your chance to get a very clean and beautiful sounding copy of one of these 3 Dylan releases. Okay, so that is a quick look at the highlights for this week's new releases headed to an independent record store near you. Now for a program note for those of you who are subscribed to the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. Well, first off, thank you. For those of you who aren't subscribed, please do so, and make sure you comment and share and do all the things you're supposed to do with YouTube videos when you see them. But coming up on our channel, we're going to be starting a new segment called Psyche Rock Spot. Now, this goes back to a collection of records we bought here at the record store back in February. A rather sizable collection, mind you. And as I'm beginning to go through this, I'm noticing that it has a lot of very obscure, very unique, and some to me previously unheard of psych rock albums. Now, I know a little bit about psych rock. There are some that I really get into, some bands, and there's some that I'm very not that familiar with. So what we're going to do with this new segment is kind of take you on this journey as I go through these boxes of this collection that we had brought into the store, and I discover these albums that I had never heard of before. We're going to start putting them in their own individual segment. Again, this is going to be called Psyche Rock Spot, and it should be starting next week. Look for it here on the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. So now, what kind of stuff is going to be in there? As I mentioned, bands that I've never really heard of before. And in looking at some of these on Discogs as we go through our process to bring them in and catalog them and get them cleaned up, now I have to decide whether or not they're going into a personal collection or heading out on the shelves, are bands like Quatermass, not Quartermass, Quatermass. A little bit of research on this, but this is a really cool psych rock looking album. We'll give a listen to this down the line. Groups like the Pentangle are showing up in there. Groups that I've heard of, but never really paid much attention to. We've got several from the band Can. Some very cool European psych rock, so we'll get into that. These, by the way, are a lot of OGs, and they are in great condition. To things that I am somewhat familiar with, and they kind of skirt that fringe of psychedelic rock, and I know that that's kind of a broader term because we could get prog rock in there, we could get blues rock, but under that bigger umbrella of psychedelic rock from the late 60s and 70s, we get somebody like Nico. We've got a couple of big Nico albums already on the shelf here. And again, I'm only marginally familiar with Nico's work, mostly through the likes of the Velvet Underground, where she worked with Andy Warhol and the guys from VU. So as we unearth these albums in these boxes, and there's probably 20 to 25 boxes of stuff that I'll be going through really throughout the summer, we're going to share these with you, these discoveries and some sound samples and a little bit of info on these bands as we go through. So hopefully you'll enjoy this as much as I think I'm going to, coming up with the new segment called Psyche Rock Spot. So again, look for that beginning next week here on the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. Again, please make sure that you are subscribed and you've enabled notifications so that when we drop these videos, you'll be the first to see them. Okay, and finally today, a quick spin from the Wasteland. When we started the record show, well over 60 episodes, well over a year ago, the name that I chose, the record show, was done just kind of half snark and half simplicity. I said, well, it's a show about the record industry and new releases. Let's just call it the record show. Unbeknownst to me, there is a Various Artists album put out by Warner and Reprise Records called The Record Show. Now, Various Artists albums are cool in the fact that it gives you a little bit of a sampling of everything. Think K-Tel. We're actually going to do a segment on Various Artists records coming up here in the near future. But found this amusing when this one was unearthed from that collection also, by the way. So you get a mixture of folks like Joni Mitchell and the Mothers of Invention. Van Dyke Parks kicked in on there, the Kinks, and the Everly Brothers. Again, these are some very odd mixes. So this is more of a Warner sampler through there. The Grateful Dead, Fats Domino, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and Lorraine Ellington. And I thought I saw, mixed in with all that blues rock, classic rock, psych rock, we see Ella Fitzgerald on here as a sampler. So on our way out, let's get a little quick sample from the Warner Reprise 1969, by the way, record show on the record show. We'll talk to you folks next week. Have a good one from all of us here at
Round, baby, ride round like a record, baby, round, 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 round.
Thanks for watching The Record Show. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe to the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. And be sure to hit that notifications bell so you'll be alerted every time we upload new content.